Yeah. So for the 21 people that'll hear this, we we started as Full Send Finance, right? Singularly aimed towards full send finance and a finance offering, an accounting offering. And over the last year, we've had a lot of momentum building towards more of a collective offering, inclusive of data, and potentially a platform to be able to offer additional services in the future, even though that's not part of the plan today. But in reflection on that, we want to make sure that we're putting forth like a one firm mentality. And so we've had this initiative to move from Full Send Finance linear to the Full Send, or just Full Send. Yeah, but I've gotten a lot better at editing because I've done a lot of content things, for better or worse.
Sports are pro these days.
Yeah, but it has been a year since we've recorded Building in the Wild with just you and I, Stacey, which seems like it's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming. I think even just prepping for this episode, thinking about what's happened in the last 13 months, it was even hard to just think of ideas or summarize everything down to what's happened. And I'm sad that it's taken us this long to get back into it, because I missed this podcast and we had priorities, but
a lot of change in 12 months, and priorities do shift quickly at a small firm. But this is one of those things that I've always looked forward to conversation, just to banter, because a lot of what we're doing is kind of building in public. Like, we share a lot about our journey, and I tend to share a little bit more, but it's been fun to get feedback from people in our industry and even outside of our industry, being like, what are you guys doing over there? Like, that's pretty cool. And also share the challenges too. And so we can hit on some of those things over the last year that have been fun and challenging and rewarding and anxiety inducing. So where do I want to start?
Well, I just want to mention though that one of the main reasons we wanted to pick this back up is because our older episodes are still getting listens, and we're hearing from candidates, people in market, that they enjoy the candid nature of us building in the wild and building publicly, which I don't think you and I really, we knew in starting a podcast that someone would listen, but I didn't think it would have as much lifeline as it did.
Yeah, so it's easy to think who cares, right? Yeah. But it's fun to get a message from a candidate, a college student that's like, yeah, I heard your podcast. What you guys are doing are super cool. Like, I'm kind of bummed that you guys stopped recording. And I was like, oh, I kind of take that personally, because that's on me.
Not just you, me too. Us both. But to your question of where should we start? Man, I jotted down a few of the things. We can just rattle off some of the bigger things that have happened in the last year. Some of the most noteworthy. I love to talk about the internal stuff at the team and the growth.
You would.
I would. I know. You can talk product and growth side. But we started hiring in Argentina. So kind of historically, what our goal was, or our strategy in hiring, was somewhat of a top-down hiring approach of hiring more senior folks first to be able to scale and build capacity faster. And so mid 2024, we got to a place where we really needed to build out our support layers, not have our more senior folks doing bank recs and transaction codings, and really building out the team infrastructure beyond just the senior folks. So we've hired 6 folks in Argentina, and they're amazing. So building out the Argentinian team, continuing to do so. We had a couple of mishires along the process. So some of the not so fun stuff is hiring folks that weren't necessarily the right fit for what we're growing into. We moved into a more structured team. So having pod structure in specific industry verticals, and having more alignment in management and one-on-ones and trainings, having a little bit more structure there. And that, alongside what you'll talk about with product and delivery, has led to some sizable growth for us.
It has. Yeah, I think it was 116% year over year growth from 23 to 24, which is wild to think about. And, the onboarding of new clients, the onboarding of new team members is hard. And so we've tried to stay very intentional and very measured about how we do that, because it's the most fragile part of the ecosystem, and also in a lot of ways one that can create the most impact, right? So if we can create an environment where we're able to have a higher positive impact on our team or on our clients, like, we're going to move that direction. And it's been so fulfilling to bring on new team members over the last year. Like, our team is banger. They're awesome. And one of the things, like, when you were kind of reflecting on the changes in the last year, that I was thinking about was we actually went through like an org chart exercise last year. And one of the things that I reflect on in thinking about the org chart is like the way that we think about our roles, how we had this kind of top-down hiring strategy. In actuality, from an org chart perspective, we actually see leadership kind of in the center of the org chart, with the supporting teams on both sides of that, where our job as leaders is to help the team get unstuck, is to help reduce friction amongst the internal and the external forces that exist in the business. And so, like, we spend most of our time today helping others learn, grow, evolve, communicate, get unstuck. And like, it's a really fulfilling role, while at the same time, it is demanding to make sure that you're reducing friction as much as possible. Like, that's a kind of a fun reflection to make through the lens of bringing on a lot of team members.
Yeah, I mean, it is a full-time job, just hiring and training and getting people involved. But I think what also has been really rewarding is seeing the leaders emerge within the team as well. So it's not this one-to-many relationship where it's you or I dictating what needs to happen. It's sharing the vision with the team of what our goals are, how do we want to get there, and they're then also pushing those goals forward with their team and sharing the collective burden of what we all need to accomplish together. So seeing the team start to understand that, and that's kind of an ongoing goal that we have of building within the org. But that's been super fun and rewarding too.
It has been. And like, alongside of that, the culture that's kind of in progress, being built, emerging from this team that has been assembled, it is so cool. And a lot of people are like, oh, tell us about your culture. Tell us about how you built it. And I'm like, we didn't build a culture. Like, that was never our intent. Like, of course, we want to have a thriving and evolving culture, but that is built by the team members that are participating in the company and living out the values that we've set forward through their actions. And like, you just see it every single day in Slack. And we reflected on 56,000 Slack messages that were sent on our Slack channels in 2024. And for a team that went from like 4 to 14, that's a lot of messages.
Lots of communication happening. Yeah, you had mentioned too, like the culture that's happening internally. We did this one exercise during the offsite in Argentina, and it was the rosebud thorn exercise of, you basically go through what are roses, things that are going really well, what are buds, opportunities to improve, and what are some thorns of just things that aren't working well that need to be addressed. And for us, it's like, that's an exercise. Of course, we want to listen to the team and hear what feedback they have and how we can make sure we have the right pulse on areas to focus. But to the team, that was a huge, impactful exercise where they weren't super used to leadership caring about the feedback and wanting their input and like being involved in the future growth. And so, yeah, to us, we're like, we're not building culture. We're just doing it. But to the team, those are the sorts of things that are really meaningful and then pay dividends later in how much they're involved and how they can improve and feel empowered to make things better at every single level of the organization.
It's so true. And you got to spend that amazing time in Argentina with our team down there. And I was sitting up here in Boulder, Colorado, just sulking. I was sad. I was bummed that I wasn't present. However, there's one conversation that I had that week while you were on site in Argentina, and it was with one of our team members who joined the company the Tuesday that you were in Argentina and had only been on the squad for about 2 hours. And so we have a virtual meeting set up, and it's kind of tell the history of the company, where are we at, what are we doing, our values, things like that. And my question to this individual was something to the effect of like, tell me about your observations just in the first few hours of getting to know the team. And she said, the highlight so far for me has been the culture. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? You've only been here for 2 hours. And she's like, you can just tell that everybody's like on board, that we're all moving the same direction. The listening from leadership, just being physically present with us was like this huge thing for this person. And it just brought this like immense joy to me to hear a team member who'd been with our firm for 2 hours say that. And it was so cool.
Yeah. I keep thinking about how when I first started, I'm sure I've said this in previous podcasts, like personally, I feel like I'm where I'm meant to be. Like this is what I was meant to do. And I feel so happy here. And now a year later, it's still the same feeling. These are still the same things. And there's like almost intangible markers. Like, sure, we love our revenue growth and our clients happy. But it's the team when they're satisfied and those feedback that we get that make us feel like we're doing the right thing. We're on the right path. And those things all, they feel good.
It does. And I will say, like, with the growth, it hasn't always been just roses and like up and to the right and everything's perfect and great. Like, we're working 20-hour weeks. Like that's really not the angle that we're going. You see a lot of that in social media channels of building a firm on 20 hours a week or whatever. And like, if that's somebody's path, like I'm stoked for them. That's freaking awesome. But that's not how we've architected what we want to build. We want to grow, we want to evolve, we want to scale, we want to have a larger impact, larger positive impact on our clients and our team. And so there have been many moments where that has yielded times where I'm working at 5 a.m., working at 9, 10 p.m. Like, well, maybe not 10 p.m. I'm usually in bed before then. But, it's a lot of time and effort. And I think both of us have that mentality because we have a high degree of passion around it. But I think by far and large, we've been able to balance is the wrong word, but create harmony within the input required for the business growth and our personal lives and fulfillment through that.
Yes, I'd agree. Like my personal experience is, I tend to do more client facing work. So our biggest challenge across the board is supply and demand. We have a lot of supply, and it's how do we keep up with that on the internal execution side. And so sometimes what that means is we say yes to a client. We don't necessarily have a full team to deliver there. So I'll jump in, take care of it, onboard, fill that role, which oftentimes means it's the late evenings, the sometimes weekends. But I don't mind that. I also don't expect that of our team. And so that's the biggest piece as you and I deciding intentionally that we want to grow and scale. I'm deciding that I'm okay with filling this gap that allows us to scale. And then the immediate next step is hiring, filling the team, figuring out how do we source this and continue to have the team in place to lessen my requirement on the client work. But yeah it's a lot. It's dedication. My husband understands, and we know it won't be forever, but it's the commitment that we're actively making.
Yeah, it's a season. And I think what you articulated right there of like stepping into roles that may not necessarily be your titled day-to-day role is examples of two of our core values. One, service it, well, all of them. You're shipping daily, you're getting work out the door, you're solving problems, you're serving clients really well, and you're being a good neighbor to the rest of our team by stepping in so that they're not carrying that burden. And I think it's important to realize, like, yes, there may be late evenings, there may be early mornings, but like we're not beholden to this traditional 9 to 5 schedule where I feel like I've got to be online for those hours. Like I might go work out in the afternoon or take an afternoon off to go spend time with my family or whatever that is, because that's maybe not the hobbies, but the family is priority. And so there is this harmony that exists that is required. And, if my house is a little bit quiet and I don't have anything on my agenda, I'm not going to be watching Netflix because I want to do this. I want to keep building this.
Mm-hmm. It's a hobby for you and I in many ways. I think we've done a good job at shielding that from the rest of the team. I haven't explicitly asked the team. I'd actually be curious to know. Like if I'm working on the weekend, I'm scheduling the Slacks out. except for you and I, we kind of agreed that that's okay to share Slacks late and then on weekends. But the expectation of the team is not that. It's because they didn't, they're not the owners of the company, right? There shouldn't be expected to do that. And we're trying to build a firm that's different and has balance. And so, yeah, trying to kind of make that delineation around where is the team, how are they performing, how's their balance, and making sure it's.
Yeah. And we've said virtually from day one, we are okay taking a lower profit margin at the end of the day for the positive impact on the team. And if that means we're hiring more to create more redundancy in the business and have a lower utilization in our industry because the team is able to live a better life, we're willing to take that hit. That said, there have been times throughout the last year where we've gotten to situations where our team has had to like put time in and like work through some pretty challenging client situations, just periods of work where there's projects happening. And so like we're eternally grateful for that. But every time that's come up, we've tried as much as possible to take action to alleviate that burden as quickly as possible.
It becomes the number one priority with among everything else. And that all kind of goes back to the fact that we have a high degree of trust in our team, and we're hiring high caliber people. So we know that the people that we're hiring are, they're doing their best work, and we can trust when they say that they're at capacity or they need support. And we're instilling that within the culture day in and day out. But we've developed that feedback loop so that the team feels comfortable saying, hey, like this is XYZ is challenging. And we then can kind of hone in on which areas we need to focus on.
Yeah. And I think with the general idea around having us being in the middle, reducing friction, there has been this like really cool openness to ask questions, to share ideas, to kind of like feel dumb by asking questions you should know the answer to. But it's such a collaborative environment. We're like, cool, yeah, like let's get you unstuck, and that's everybody on the team that's pouring into that, which has been so cool to see. But over the last year, we've also made big strides in other areas too, with product and internal operations, and it's been a year.
Yeah, I want to dig into some of the other stuff we've been focused on this year.
Yeah, so gosh, we're recording right now on Feb 4. No, wait, it's March already. Gosh, it's March 4th. And it was almost this time last year where we said, all right, we're going to launch a data practice.
Data intelligence.
Yeah, originally it was like just intelligence. We kind of morphed it into data. But that has been a really interesting thing to see unfold. Like the way in which the data team looks at solving problems is so very different than us on the accounting side. And also we've seen a lot of interesting opportunity with clients to like help them improve their data hygiene, their data rhythms, their data strategy. And so we're starting to see a bridge being built between these two service offerings, while at the same time they are stood up independently or can service clients discreetly as well.
Since we're about a year into the data intelligence launch, if you were to pinpoint like one overarching lesson learned or observation since launching this new business line, what would you distill that down into?
A lesson learned. So I think it's twofold. One, the if you build it and they will come mentality is just a false narrative that exists in any entrepreneurial endeavor, right? It's super easy to get kind of narrowly a channel focused on like, oh, if we just do this thing, then we'll have abundance of opportunity. That's just simply not true. That said, I think what's another lesson learned on that is like by discreetly identifying pain points that exist in our clients' businesses that we can say, we can solve that problem in a far more efficient and scalable way than us as accountants would do, and have a resource to be able to do that, I think has been really enriching to our conversations with our clients and their ability to be successful. And so I think about those two things of like, it's not this like evergreen, build something that will come. You need to actually identify that pain point and then lean into it to help solve a discrete problem.
My observation is similar. It's very related to that. Um, we think about accounting. We run an accounting firm. We know that it's fairly easy to close a client if they're reaching out to us and our, services align with their expectations. That's because everyone needs bookkeeping. People know they need bookkeeping. They know they need accounting. They know they need to file their taxes at the end of the year. On the data side of things, there's an education component that I didn't expect to be there because I've just been exposed to data and the power and the benefits of having a good data structure. And so the biggest hurdle I think that we didn't anticipate was that you need to educate people on the value of the data and how it can benefit them. And that still might not even turn into a sale. And so it's shifted, it required us to shift our go-to-market strategy on how do we target certain companies, what is the size, what are the problem statements we're looking to solve for them to attract the right people. So we're educating less because they already know they need this resource, and we're spending more time solving versus educating and maybe selling.
Yeah, and it has been a really fun and it's sometimes like challenging exercise to work through because I mean, similar to the accounting side, we're still iterating on like what does the ideal service look like? And from day one, well, not from day one, because day one was a medallion structure pricing, bronze, silver, gold. And we've moved to more of a custom pricing model. But like we want to be more custom white glove advisors that can advise at a very high level how to build an accounting and finance rhythm that can scale. And now, alongside of that, a data rhythm. And what I'm most excited about is thinking about 3, 5, 10 years out where we've got agents going crazy in our business and AI is doing all these crazy stuff for us. Like the ability to structure data in a way to make that transition to AI agents seamless is so heavily predicated upon a quality data infrastructure that like I'm really excited to continue forging down that path of creating better outcomes for clients based on that next generation of service, of AI, of whatever it looks like.
I think we've gotten a ton of really great feedback in market of launching this and how comparable it is to accounting services. And then we see it every day with our team and our clients, and kind of goes back to educating our team on identifying opportunities for data to solve, whether it's for the client or internally for us to utilize data structures to make our lives easier. It's almost limitless in how we want to go about productizing it, I'll say, or really selling it. Your point of how do we actually package it up, and we're constantly ideating on what that longer term goal is. But there's a lot of really great opportunities in the future for the data intelligence service.
Yeah, that it's been really fun to explore, and at the same time, like we're constantly tinkering with and improving our accounting scope and deliverables and trying to solve problems. And it's been really fun to identify like what types of problems come up with clients that we didn't anticipate, whether it's trying to help scenario modeling or a new budget, or maybe it's a new like system integration or just standing up a new invoicing tool. Working through those types of scenarios has been really fun to explore and to see material benefit of clients who are scaling from, when we picked up one particular client, they were 800,000 or so in revenue. Now they're about 4 or 5 million. And we're like, whoa, things are changing fast. And so are our services. So we need to catch up.
Yeah, I think, we talked a lot about the data service or data practice, but we also launched that internally as well of building out our internal data structure. It was our joint session at QuickBooks Connect or Intuit Connect, talking about a data infrastructure for your firm to enhance growth. That's always going to be a work in process thing too. There's not a set it and forget it implementation, but it's more of an iteration or kind of how do we continue to make it better. But it's enabled a lot of automation, a lot of scalability for us. I'd say 2024 was mostly that like V1 or like MVP version of that for us.
Mhm.
What are those like things that are going to really unlock quick wins, but also thinking about like what are those infrastructure based level things that we need to put in place, like productizing our services, for example. But it's been fun to just automate onboarding tasks and have zaps ping certain things and set up into all the different systems. Um, that was our V1 and it's worked out really well, but we've got a little bit more work to do to continue to update it, make sure it's evolving as our business changes and as our team changes too.
Yeah. And like we are so far from perfect, so
Yeah.
far from a place where we really want to be. And that's because like we both have this like unrelenting ambition to continue to see progress and to not only grow but create efficiencies and just see positive change. So I'll be excited to see how that continues to progress. When you reflect on the last 12 months of not recording this podcast, what's one of the highlights that you reflect on that you're like, man, that was just like a really rewarding time, experience, or occasion?
The two highlights for me are the in-person time that we had with the team. So
Yeah.
last summer we did a US based summer retreat, which really was just a 2-day in person, completely out of work, ideating around strategy, how we can be better. And the ideas that come out of those sessions, it's the whole thing that the collective is better than the individual, and just the power of what we're able to think about together with all the team members involved. Personally, it just feels so amazing to be able to bring a team together and like that is the team full send, right? That we made that, and it's really rewarding to reflect on that. But then also in 2 weeks ago in Argentina, very similar thing of launching that with our Argentinian team. Having worked with them 6+ months and remotely, and then seeing them in person, just paid so many dividends. And it was a career highlight for me to be able to go to another country and see this team that we've developed and grown into, and the impact it's had on their lives. It was just really meaningful. So I think those will always be my highlights for as we continue to grow.
Yeah.
Are those team interactions and the reflection that we have and how that then impacts our future strategy and where we're growing.
Yeah. Fine. I'll take a different two. We had our second annual fall bash in September of last year, and it was just so cool to see the community rally, to have a bunch of fun, to support a great cause and our nonprofit partner with First Ascents. And I get so much energy from stuff like that, and constantly think about like how can we do this better, different. And when I reflect on that, I'm like, man, people come up to me still and they're like, oh, I was at your fall bash last year, it was great. And so that is a really enriching experience. And then also, I reflect on our time at QuickBooks Connect, where we were able to bring 2 additional team members. There's 4 of us running arm in arm on the show floor, mixing and mingling with vendors, going to sessions, debriefing on what we've learned and what we want to implement, collaborating with other firm owners. Like, it was just so cool to see our team, who maybe hasn't been as exposed to that environment, like dig in and learn, and like their eyes are just opening of like, whoa, we could be doing this, that, and the other, and coming back with ideas. And it was kind of a small glimpse of how I feel when I get to participate in those events too.
It's interesting to think that all of our highlights are related to like the team involvement that we're building and the impact that we're having on the team and the industry, rather than say the client work that we're doing. But that's the beauty of it, right? Having that bigger purpose beyond just the transactional work that we're doing day in and day out. Those are the things that enable us to actually do the valuable work and do it really well and feel excited about it. So it's just this full cycle of good.
Yeah. And I mean, over the last 12 months, I'm going to take this a slightly different direction, but private equity, mergers, acquisitions, the activity in our industry has been massive. And so firms are getting bought left and right. They're rolling up into bigger entities, private equity money's coming in. And out of everything I've seen, I have yet to see such a like a high emphasis on people and a high emphasis on outcomes of the individuals that are involved in the at the firm level, at the client service level. um, I just haven't seen that, and I've seen more of the emphasis of like, oh, if we roll these firms up, we can generate more economies of scale and profitability, and then we can sell it again in 7 years. And like, it is interesting reflecting on those moments that we've held so dearly over the last year. They are so people centric.
Mhm.
And by leaning into that, continuing to value that, like, that's going to drive value more than any kind of like PE activity that creates efficiencies on your back office operations. Like, oh, let's work with great people. Let's provide a great service, continue to pour into the people, like internally and externally, that make this thing great. And like, we'll go far.
Yeah, it really makes me reflect on our why. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we here? Um, what really drives our happiness and success? Um, and you can interview 99 out of 100 entrepreneurs, and they're going to say that the money or the buyout is not what brought them happiness. It was the journey and the process and the way and the building. Those experiences are far outweigh any monetary outcome that can come from a private equity investment. I think that's what I always want to remember too, as we continue to grow and scale and build a valuable firm. And it's the why of why we're here and what really brings us happiness.
Yeah, and I think so long as we or any other firms that are kind of blazing this new era of what accounting firms or consulting firms look like, they'll be successful beyond their wildest dreams. And like, I'm not saying that from a position of hubris, but rather like there's a lot of opportunity out there. And I think like, to the extent that you focus on pouring into people and providing a really high quality service, like there will be opportunities that exist for you, like
Yeah.
bar none.
And it's just, there's so many options, right? We're taking our path and the way we want to go and what we find most valuable and rewarding. But there's such a broad spectrum of how you can fit into that and build a firm you love if you want to be a solopreneur, right? From there through to being large multi-million dollar firm. There's such a variety in there of building your own path and having your own fun along the way. And that's what I love about this industry is that there's just so many options for all of the different personalities that exist.
Yeah. And speaking of fun, we've got a Slack channel called the Full Senders channel that gets so much love and attention and so many cool pictures of like the awesome things that our team is doing on a week in and week out basis. Like, that brings me so much joy. And I've started in our newsletter to take like my top 5 pictures from that channel and share them in our newsletter to be like, look at what our team's been up to over the last month. Like, it is awesome.
I love too that it's, full send has the connotation of like adventure sports and going crazy like that. And that's not really what it means. It means doing that thing outside of work that brings you life, brings you joy. So I love seeing just you with your kids or people reading or at a coffee shop and just really enjoying their life, but sharing that with the broader team is what makes it really fun. I love seeing the full senders. I have to actually post a few things from a few photos there. That's my favorite, by far, my favorite Slack
Yeah.
channel.
Because like people rally around it, they're like, that hike is awesome. Your kids are cool. That foster dog is the best. And like, it's
More.
just, oh, it's so high energy. It's so positive. And like, those are the kinds of things that help build the culture. And everybody's participatory in that. It's not like something that we mandated and say, you must post on this once a week. Like, not at all. Like, have fun and share your adventures. And to the extent that we can help you live a better personal life, like we're winning, right?
I love it. Okay, so you spent a little bit of time, by a little bit, I mean a lot of bit of time, rebuilding our website. I'm curious how much you want to share about the website, the involvement, kind of what's shifted there since a year ago, and how much time and dedication it's taken from you to build that out.
Yeah. So for the 21 people that'll hear this, we we started as full send finance, right? Singularly aimed towards full send finance and a finance offering, an accounting offering. And over the last year, we've had a lot of momentum building towards more of a collective offering, inclusive of data, and potentially a platform to be able to offer additional services in the future, even though that's not part of the plan today. But in reflection on that, we want to make sure that we're putting forth like a one firm mentality. And so we've had this initiative to move from full send finance linear to the full send or just full send. And so I've been a lot of work on the back end, a lot of like wild SEO and website stuff that I've learned a lot about. HTTPS. You got to redirect them very differently. Anyways, we launched our new website at thefullsend.com. I am really stoked about it. The brand is staying the same, but the back end of the website's a little bit more efficient. It's more scalable, and it's way more inclusive of all of the ways that we're able to provide more value to increase outcomes for the companies we connect with, for the team members we bring on. And so I'm like super stoked about this next step and like thankful to have it done, quite frankly. But we've worked with some awesome partners in the background to like help push that forward. But it kind of feels like that next chapter that we're stepping into to kind of plant our flag in the ground again to say like, we're not only here, but we're here. And I've been excited about the way that's turned out.
Consider this our official soft launch since we really haven't marketed or mentioned this publicly. So yeah, that's 21 of you that are listening. You're the first to hear it.
You heard it here first.
You put in a lot of work with that. I think it does a lot. The website rebrand does a better job at delineating the different services that we offer and kind of parsing that out. Before it was like full send finance, accounting, and firm. We also do data. Whereas now it's a lot clearer around those two different service lines to give the appropriate attention to our data intelligence business line too. Kudos to you. Good work on that.
Oh, thanks. No sweat. We'll see. Like we are going to be continuing to build and grow. We got a lot of big events on the horizon for this year. I mean, I've got a kid come in here in a little bit. So, there's big life changes. There's big business changes. We're planning on bringing on another like 6 to 8 folks or so this year from a hiring perspective. Like we are going to be bringing on some incredible people, which we're very excited about.
Yeah. And I think that 2024, that with the growth, it's pulled me away from podcasting, LinkedIn posting. It's been very heads down, focused on executing internally. But I'm excited to continue to have these conversations, take an hour out of the month to just continue to talk about what we're building in the wild. Because who knows, maybe someone will be interested or inspired by the ways that we're building.
I hope so. And we will hopefully commit to doing this on a monthly basis again. And Stacy, maybe you'll post on LinkedIn again at some point in the future. I always get jealous when you post because I'm like, oh, everybody liked that. And she only posts once a month. Come on. I'm like, I posted yesterday and today, and I got like a third of the likes.
You get comments though. You get some good engagement.
That's the whole reason why I post on LinkedIn, to start a conversation, right? Like, what's the point if it's not social?
It's working. I think, one thing we didn't hit on really hard was just the challenges, which we can hit on in another episode. Because it's not all rainbows and butterflies at all. There's a lot of things we work through, but what gives me the most confidence is just having the team that I feel really good about solving any of those challenges that come our way. So we're able to do it together, and it feels achievable every time.
Yeah, and it does, and it feels like there's not just one of us is carrying this like unreasonably burden. There's not this like we're not unequally yoked. We're like one of us is carrying a ton of weight. I mean, it's it's felt good, but to your point, like it ain't easy, and it's not for the faint of heart, because there's a lot of hard decisions that are made in the quiet moments, and I think both of us are very aware of that. And honestly, like I kind of not necessarily look forward to those hard moments, but also realize that like these challenges that we faced in the last year have made us more resilient. And it sounds cliche, but have made us stronger and more convicted in the direction we're going. And so it's always an opportunity to just get better.
Yeah, we're smarter because of it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, season 3, episode 1, we're doing it, and we'll come back with more later.
Adios.
You